I've looked into some stats today, and in all honesty, Sky Sports and The Athletic have been very good in articles recently about Liverpool regarding stats and stuff. So the first stat that I want to talk about is injuries, because there is a perception that some teams maybe have more injuries than other. Newcastle at the moment, absolutely riddled with injuries. So Sky Sports did look into the number of players missing for one game or more through injury. And Newcastle topped the chart with about 25 players missing one game or more with injury. Interestingly enough, though, Liverpool are in the mid to lower end of this. Liverpool are averaging, or have had about 16 players miss games of one or more through injury so far in the 2023-24 campaign. Second place on the list, and this really surprised me, is Brighton. I did not realise quite how many injuries Brighton have had, or how many players have missed one game or more. And third on the list is actually Manchester United. Manchester United have had, I think it's about 23 players miss one game or more. So that is it's pretty interesting, to be honest with you, because I knew about Newcastle, I kind of knew about United, I guess, as well, but I really wouldn't have thought about the amount of injuries that Brighton have had. So that made me sit up. But that doesn't tell the whole story, so there's more stats to this. If you look at days lost from injuries, and again, all of this information, I got to give credit where it's due, is available on the Sky Sports app. There's an article on there that gives a lot of this, and The Athletic have the rest of it. So days lost from injuries in the Premier League. This is incredible. Newcastle, of course, topped that list, and they've had, I think it's almost 860, 870 days, something like that, missed with injury through players. Brentford second on the list. Brighton third on the list. And again, you'll notice Liverpool are lower end of medium here. Liverpool have had about 500, maybe 510 or so days missed through injuries. Now, the reason I haven't got exact numbers on this is because it's a graph, and the graphs aren't specific with the numbers. They're just giving you ranges in between hundreds. So Newcastle top on the list with an incredible amount of days missed through injury. Bottom of that, so the club have had the least injuries to be concerned about, have been West Ham. Interestingly enough, they've about 200 days lost from players being injured so far in the 2023-24 campaign. Other notable names on the list: United dropped down a little bit from the amount of players injured. When you look at days out, they are about 720, 710, somewhere in and around that. Manchester City have been very fortunate with injuries themselves. They fall into the lower part of the table. I think they're about fifth up from bottom. They've got somewhere in and around 430, 440 days through players missing injuries. And now the last stat around injuries that I want to bring up and have a conversation about is the current injuries. So who in the Premier League currently has the most players out with injury? Now, I don't know if this stat takes into account Trent Alexander-Arnold's knee injury, but right now, if I asked you, who do you think tops the current injury chart in the Premier League with the most players out? You're probably going to say Newcastle or Manchester United. But it isn't. Amazingly, Chelsea top the Premier League for the most players currently out injured. They've got 12 players out injured. Spurs right there with them as well with 12, so both of them the same. Next down is Brentford, who have 11. United dropped down the list to 10. But again, if you're looking for Liverpool, this time we're a bit higher, a bit above the average. We're kind of Europa League places. Liverpool have currently 9 players out with injury. So you can see the amount of games being missed by players this season, be it through injuries, be it through VAR dragging them on the pitch for longer, leading to these injuries. And whatever reason it is, this has been a bit of a record season for injuries so far in the Premier League. And you can have your own say as to what you think those injuries may be being caused by. But to finish up this conversation and this little segment about stats, I can't not draw your attention to the obvious ones, the ones that you guys in the chat were talking about, and that is the strikers. So big chances missed in the Premier League. It won't surprise you to know who tops the list. With 18 big chances missed so far in the 2023-24 season, Liverpool's Darwin Núñez does indeed top the list. But what really caught my eye, and what hasn't been mentioned, and certainly isn't the narrative in fan channels or the media, is who's number 2 on the list, and who's number 3 on the list. Number 2 on the list, with 17 missed big chances this season. Who do you think it is? I'm going to give you a second to have a guess. Rashford, Højlund, Son, Richarlison maybe? Maybe not Richarlison, he's been injured. But whoever you're thinking, I'm doubtful that the name Erling Braut Haaland was going to come off your lips. But yes, Erling Braut Haaland is second on this list with 17 big chances missed so far this season. Third on the list, Ollie Watkins, 13 big chances missed. Next is Chelsea's Nicholas Jackson with 12 big chances missed this season. And then you go down to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Rasmus Højlund, Alexander Isak, all with 9 big chances missed. Jared Bowen with 8. Mohamed Salah with 8 as well. And then you've got Johan Visa of Brentford with 8. Now, all of these things only give you a sample size or a small amount of the picture. But expected goals on target and goals scored, this puts Darwin at the top of the chart again. But interestingly here, there is no Haaland to be seen anywhere. So Darwin so far this season should have scored 10.23 goals. His expected goals tally for the chances as he's been in and the positions he's been in is 10.23. He scored 5, meaning there's a differential of minus 5.23 goals for Darwin. So that's a pretty damning statistic and one that's really hard to defend. Second on the list is Neil Maupay. He's scored 2 goals but has an expected goals of 5.14, meaning he's minus 3.14. Third on the list is Danjuma, then Carlton Morris, Rasmus Højlund, Enzo Fernandez, Said Benrahma, Brennan Johnson, Bruno Fernandes and Keio Matoma. So nowhere on that list features Ollie Watkins and Erling Braut Haaland, who interestingly, as I mentioned a moment ago, were both up there for big chances missed. So they are bettering their expected goals, or they're in a better position with their expected goals versus their goals tally. So I just wanted to kind of highlight some of these as options for you guys to think about when we're having these conversations. And I've got one more stat that I want to just talk about before we finish up, and that is a stat based very much around Liverpool Football Club and distance covered. So right now, if I was to ask you guys, who in this Liverpool team do you think covers the most ground week in, week out when playing in the Premier League? Who would you say? I would think Szoboszlai would have been right up there in my head. But the winner and the leader is Curtis Jones. Curtis Jones has covered more ground than any other Liverpool player. Second is Wataru Endo. Again, covering a lot of ground. Ryan Gravenberch. This is interesting stuff to me. And also, up very high on that list, for pressures in the middle third and then pressures resulting in turnovers, Dominic Szoboszlai tops our list at Liverpool for pressures in the middle third with 17.9 per game. Pressures resulting in turnovers, winning the ball back, is 5.1. But second on the list, right there yet again, is Curtis Jones. Curtis Jones up there with 20.7 pressures in the middle third, leading to 4.4 turnovers. Third on the list, Harvey Elliott. Fourth, Wataru Endo. And fifth, Cody Gakpo. So while these things don't give you the whole picture, and stats always have to be taken in context, and I'm not the guy to give you the full context on stats, I thought this was interesting, and I thought because they were mentioned so much, it's something that I had to bring up and have a conversation with you guys. So now I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on any of those stats that you've seen. What ones have surprised you? The one that got me is definitely, without a doubt, seeing Erling Haaland have just one more missed chance, the big missed chance, than Darwin. If you consider Haaland's been out for a little bit as well, that was the one that caught my eye. And then Ollie Watkins to be third on that list. But also you've got the differential then to the expected goals versus the reality of what they scored were. Unfortunately for us, Darwin's still up there at the top of the list, but Watkins and Haaland are nowhere to be seen there. So obviously their conversion rate's a lot better. So yeah, that was a little segment on stats and stuff like that. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention because, as I said, there's some good articles written over the past day or two around stats from The Athletic and Sky, and I just wanted to kind of bring them in because it's not a subject we touched on much. Right,